All right, well, God willing, the government is not going to be at the Food and Wine Festival this weekend because, you know what, they don't belong. They're not fun, and the festival is. And we're going to kick off this wine and food festival, probably one of the coolest things that happens in this city, and of course it happens in Miami as well. We'll confirm that with my next guest in a minute. But we're going to kick it off with wine. We're going to talk food later in the week. We're starting with wine today. Wine has exploded. So many people are into wines and learning about wines. I myself am starting my own little venture on wines. Yann Bourigault is here with us, right? Executive Director of Georges Duboeuf Wines. Here with us with your wines. You will be at the festival. First, let's back up. Tell us first a little bit about the company. Georges started this himself, did he not?
Yes, bonjour Tracy. Georges Duboeuf, there is a Georges Duboeuf man behind the brand. It's a very well-known brand. We are today the largest selling French wine in the US. And Georges it's a very interesting story. He's a self-entrepreneur, a self-made man. He started the winery in the 60s, built it from the ground up to what is today one of the largest French winery in the export markets.
France, though, has always, I mean, what is it? Has France just lucked out as far as climate, soil? I mean, you name it. France is consistently sending great wine over here.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with what Mother Nature gave us in terms of climate, in terms of soils. Certainly, we have a lot of a wide diversity of different soil that allows us to make great Chardonnay, great Pinot Noir, great Gamay in the case of Beaujolais. Great sparkling wine in Champagne, again, great Bordeaux, which is Cabernet Sauvignon over there that grows perfectly. So certainly, you know, there's been years and years and years of experimenting, a lot of drinking, which allowed people to find out what are the best grapes suitable for that type of soil.
So can you talk a little bit about how business has been through this, you know, this recession we've been in, people cutting back? A lot more people drinking at home, so I would think that actually works to your benefit, because I'm going to buy a bottle of wine and go home with it.
Well, there's been different things happening. I think when the recession started, obviously everybody had a tough time, especially on the restaurant side. I think things are getting slightly better right now. When it comes to French wine, we are very linked to the quality of the vintage. Surprisingly, in 2008, Duboeuf enjoyed a pretty good year. And then we foresee another great year in 2010, as a matter of fact. This has to do with the fact that French wines are very closely linked to the quality of the vintage. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, but the 09, which is now being released on the marketplace, is one of the vintages that will stay in the books forever. It's one of the greatest vintages for French wine.
But again, because the weather was good, the terrain was, I mean, everything just worked. Mother Nature was just on your side.
Yes, the terrain, we get that locked up 100, 200, 300 years ago, so we know. But in the case of 09, it's all about the weather.
The weather.
The weather. We broke, you know, the 100-degree Fahrenheit mark a few times in July and August, which is unheard of. I mean, maybe global warming has something to do with that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we should keep at it then.
I guess.
And that allowed us to make some wines that are really off the charts.
It's amazing because that's just a variable that's completely out of your control, and that is so reliant on how your business does.
It's funny, Australia, California, they don't have this sort of, it can be perceived as a problem or as an opportunity, but in the case of French wine, consumers are really looking for the quality of the vintage. If it's good, you know, right now, exports of French wines are up 25–30%. You know, last year they were down.
Wow.
Because the 08 vintage was not as good.
But I also know that futures on wines are back again because they weren't for a while. So I guess 07, 08 were not so good?
They were solid years, not
blow it out of the park.
Years.
Okay.
Yes.
And China now is getting into wine, aren't they?
Absolutely. We are very present in China. We are selling in 120 different countries. And we foresee a lot of opportunities in China, in India, and probably in Brazil as well.
Wow. So all these up-and-coming countries are going to just consistently add to your exports.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about what's happening here in New York City. This Food and Wine Festival, why is it even worth coming? Because really, it's just people from Manhattan that come here. Is it that much exposure?
It's a lot of exposure, and it's really one of the best decor to promote your brand. There's a lot of attention, a lot of press looking at the event. There's a lot of chefs participating, either as guests or just as people who want to enjoy the festival. And it's just the best scenario for your brand. You put yourself in the best possible light, and it's all benefit, really.
How do you differentiate yourself? Because your point is well taken. French wines are just known to be fabulous. People are very specific about French wines versus California versus Italian wines. How do you keep differentiating yourself?
I think the major differentiation with French wine is the fact that we don't name our wines after the varietal that makes the wine. We don't call it Gamay, even though every Beaujolais is made 100% from the Gamay grape. We don't call it Pinot Noir, we call it Burgundy. We don't call it Cabernet, we call it Bordeaux. So we put the emphasis on the place where the grapes are grown rather than the varietal itself. Why do we do this?
Yeah, because it just confuses newbies like me.
Well, Tracy, if you were to grow tomatoes in your yard, in your backyard, if you put the same plant in the shade and in the same plant in a sunnier area, you would get two very different tomatoes, right?
Great. Yep.
So the exposure to the sun, maybe the presence of a body of water, all these elements will make a wine,
Right,
better
it becomes
or worse.
almost scientific.
So that's where place really plays a big part.
So tell us what you brought today.
So today we brought a few wines. They are really two quality levels in Beaujolais. You get Beaujolais, Beaujolais Village, which are your entry-level wines, such as this one.
What's the price point on that?
It's roughly a $9.99 item.
Oh, wow.
It's very affordable,
wow.
Great value. And we also have in the northern part of Beaujolais single villages that make consistently better wines. And over years and years, again, of tasting and experiments, people thought it would be good to name them separately. And this is why we have 10 crus, 10 outstanding villages. One of them is Morgon. The other one is Brouilly. Another one is Julianas. Those are small villages.
So I can go to these villages?
You can go to these villages. It's tiny. There's a church. 2 bars usually. That's the ratio.
Tons of fields.
And only vineyards.
Right.
Okay. But those villages have different soil types and climates, and the wines that are produced there are better maybe than your regular Beaujolais village, but very different one from the other.
So what would the price points be on these guys?
So when the Beaujolais village would retail for $9.99, those guys would go from $12.99 to $17.99.
Oh, but still, you're not breaking the bank.
No, not at all. That's a beautiful thing about Beaujolais. I think those wines represent great values, especially in an economy that still has, some ways to go.
But that's really important, actually, because wine is taken off. And I know we don't have a ton of time, but why do you think it is that so many people, myself included, are so interested in learning about it? I mean, for me, it's the historical part of it. I love that vineyards have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years and they've perfected it. But there's got to be more to that people are just so into these days.
I think it's one of the things that makes you happier. It makes your meal taste better when you have wine with your lunch or with your dinner. It's one of these little things. I mean, there's a lot of culture. There's a lot of excitement about wine. It's an endless field. I mean, you will never know everything there is to know about wine, even though at some point you may feel you do. It changes everything again with the next vintage. I mean, it's a continuous entertainment.
And the most important thing, from what I've gathered thus far, is to drink what you like and not be intimidated.
Absolutely.
Yann, thanks so much for being here.
Christy, thank you for having me on the show.
Have a fabulous time at the festival.
Sure will.
All right, I'm going to have to swing by and make sure I come see you because I'm going to go. That's all we got for today. Yann and I are going to go drink wine now. Your Dow did not move this entire show. That's because everybody was riveted. They were watching. Dow's up 170 points. Have a great, great day. Make sure you check out the New York City Food and Wine Festival. See you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you very much, Trish.